The snowstorm came in with a vengeance. Whenever it's blowing sideways like this in town, I always worry about the road up to the ranch. The storm blew out maybe 4 or 5 inches of snow up here. But as I approached the front gate, the truck started making a funny noise, and I knew I needed to head back to town. I figured out pretty quick what it was, grabbed all the tools I could think that I needed, then I consciously thought to myself, I hope I can make it out to pavement in 2-wheel drive. I was worried that my old dependable red truck was setting a tone for the week. I remember when I first became an apprentice while I was training to be a plumber. I initially worked in the warehouse, making just a shade over minimum wage. I got married, and I knew I needed to learn a trade. I went to the manager and begged for an opportunity to train with one of the journeyman plumbers. He put me with an old plumber that had been around a long time, that was in the middle of a commercial remodel where they had to break up the concrete and fix another plumber's mistakes. For the next 2 weeks, I got to run the jackhammer. I remember getting home from work, and I couldn't open my hands. This went on day after day after day, and on multiple occasions, I thought to myself, why don't you just quit? There's got to be an easier way to make money. I think that journeyman was trying to break me, and I refused to give. There have been many times in my career and many points in my life where quitting would have been much easier. This week has been a heck of a week, to say the least. My plan was to replumb the utility room for the water softener, water filters, and water heaters, and get it ready for inspection. I got as far as cleaning out the utility room, and that was it. I try to be conscious of the way I talk to myself. I try to be conscious of the words that come out of my mouth. I try not to use words that would cause my kids to be disappointed in me. But every once in a while, what I call the Bible swear words are just not sufficient. My dad's favorite swear word was damn it anyway. Sometimes all that I can do is just put my head down and chip away at something. Sometimes the goals are quite a bit further away than I anticipated, but I just gotta keep going. I just have to keep moving forward, and I have to be consistent, and I have to do what's gotten me this far. Regardless of what stage I happen to be in life, or who I happen to be talking to, I try to be consistent. I try to be transparent, and I try to be me. Sometimes I can be a little bit too rough around the edges, but I guess I just don't want people to think that I'm something that I'm not. I once had the opportunity to speak in front of literally thousands of people. And after I was done speaking, a friend of mine introduced me to a very well-dressed man. This man was wearing a very expensive suit, a very expensive watch, and we shook hands. I gave him a compliment on being very well dressed, and he quickly came back at me with, "Your appearance reflects who you are." I looked down at my boots and my Wranglers, and I felt that he was taking a little bit of a shot at me. About 8 months later, I learned this man was serving a couple of years in prison for fraud. I'm pretty sure I still have those Wranglers. My point is, I try to be consistent in who I am. I try to put one foot in front of the other, even on days that it feels entirely impossible, like today. President Calvin Coolidge once said, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts." Sometimes our life requires persistence and nothing else. I just spent the last 2 hours dealing with the plow truck, getting it back up here. I scraped the pad off up here about 4 hours ago, and there's already about another 4 inches of snow on the pad. It's been a while since it snowed like this. It's one thing to get 4 to 6 inches of snow over a 24-hour period, but it's a whole other thing to get over an inch an hour, and that seems to be what it's doing now. Cedar keeps texting me, making sure that I'm okay, which means it's got to be snowing pretty hard in town. But it's just been a heck of a day. You know, between busting my front axle on my truck on Monday, and I'm pretty sure it's the fuel pump on the plow truck has finally given up. It seems like if I let it sit for about 45 minutes, it starts up again. You know, it's a fairly inexpensive part, but it's just like, you know, I guess I have to look at the positive. It broke down right in front of the house here. It didn't break down a half mile or a mile back, and it very easily could have, and I very easily could be up here until after dark, like it has happened before. But thank goodness I got it up here. I'm going to run into town, pick up the parts that I need. I'm going to go pick up the plumbing parts that I need. That was my goal for today, was to finish the main water line and get the main water line reconnected, the water softener loop in, the filter loop in, all that stuff in. And I haven't touched anything plumbing related. And so it's just, you know, one of these moments where I just have to go, good googly moogly, am I going to live through this? You know, I could consciously convince myself that the road has stolen about 3 or 4 years of my life. But at the same time, I could convince myself that living up here is going to give that back to me, if not double. So I don't know. This is just a year The snow is, I've never seen it like this before. You know, the farmers and the ranchers are all grateful for this kind of moisture because it fills up all the lakes and the ponds, and it's a good indication that it's going to be a good year for farmers. But I can't wait for this to go away. And once it starts melting, it turns into mud. But at this point, I would rather deal with mud than snow. But I can't wait to see it once it changes. Usually by about this time of the year, things are melting off. We're not getting, I don't know, it doesn't seem like we get this much snow this late, but who knows? I have to remain optimistic and positive. I'm going to go home and have Valentine's dinner with my wife and kids. And I'm going to forget about the heck of a day that I had. And I'm going to do a hard reset tonight and wake up in the morning and get up here and get the things done that I have to, and try and overcome the last couple of issues with the plow truck. It can't be out of gas because I put 12 gallons of gas in it yesterday, so it's got to be that fuel pump. I'm thinking about buying a bed tank, finding a cheap, $100 bed tank just to put in there so I could fill that thing up with 40 or 50 gallons of fuel and know that I'm never going to run out, and be able to check it, I guess. But I don't know. I'm trying not to have a pity party for myself, but on a positive note, I want to thank all of you guys that bought hats. We sold a tremendous amount of hats. After I mentioned that in the last video, I'm done making those hats. We're not doing that ever again. This style of hat ever again. But I've got a pretty cool new hat that we should have here in a week or two. So. Sometimes our life requires persistence and nothing else.